Hey, I'm Nazir, and today we're going to talk about the issue of mass incarceration in Milwaukee and Wisconsin and the effects it has on communities of color. We're also going to explore the issue of mass incarceration and the connection it has to systemic racism and inequality in Milwaukee. We're also going to talk about the impact that mass incarceration has on communities and families and how it creates a cycle of poverty and disadvantage for Black people. Finally, we're going to talk about the actions and steps that we can take as a community to help reform the prison system. Mass incarceration in the United States is a complex and vast problem that has had a deep and long-lasting impact on communities across the country. In recent decades, Congress and state legislators have implemented reforms to prison and sentencing laws that mandate prison time for even minor offenses and lengthen sentences for violent crimes and repeat offenders. These reforms are rooted in political and racist biases surrounding drug use, inner cities, and race, leading to disproportionate arrests, convictions, and incarceration of Black Americans.
Do I think that Black people are oftentimes unfairly arrested at a higher rate than other races? Absolutely.
Data shows that Black Americans experience harsher sentencing for drug-related crimes, racial biases in the judicial system, and structural disadvantages at a higher rate than white individuals.
Yeah, I just think that it's really unfortunate for Black people when it comes to incarceration, because 9 times out of 10 we're getting sentenced so unfairly that it just it's just like you get no chance to ever have a real life off of a mistake.
This has resulted in a historical high number of children experiencing parental incarceration within their families and communities.
My father being in prison affected me. I was kind of a kid in class that didn't have a father around because I never had that male figure of the house. It forced me to grow up pretty quick. It was scary.
Well, my father went to prison when I was 12, so it affected me greatly because I would think like the time as you becoming a woman, that's when you probably need your father the most. He was incarcerated for over 25 years. And then when he did get out, he wasn't even out long before he got arrested again. So it was very unfortunate growing up without my dad, just not having that support.
Furthermore, the disparity of mass incarceration rates based on race has been frequently pointed to as an example of racial injustice in the justice system. The legacy of racial injustice continues to result in significant economic and societal inequality today. The disproportionate incarceration of African American men has had far-reaching and devastating effects on their communities and families.
Right, it's very challenging to raise a child with a parent incarcerated, because then you also look at it like, do I glorify this situation or do I keep my child from it? Because it's like I don't want them to fall in that same footsteps. It's hard to decide, like, do you want your child going to the prison every week because you want them to have a relationship with their father, but then it's like you don't want that to be like normalcy.
I probably missed out on like just the experience to have a dad watch me learn, watch me grow. I missed the experience what a lot of us Black people miss when it comes to our fathers.
Not only does it tear his family apart and disrupt the social fabric within communities, it also creates a cycle of poverty and marginalization that is difficult to break within our African American culture.
Well, I learned later how it affected my youngest. He kind of felt like he didn't really get a chance to know his dad. I learned like by the time he became a teen, he kind of hated that he had his dad's last name. He just didn't want to be associated with this person that he had no bond with. It hurt me because I knew how emotional it could be to not have your father, because I had the same thing happen to me. And it was just a cycle that I didn't want my kids to ever have to go through, because I did it.
Yeah, I was angry. I was mad. I missed out on the key point of my life.
African American men who are incarcerated are more likely to face barriers to employment, education, housing upon release, making it very difficult for them to reintegrate themselves into society and provide for their families.
When you're the only person, it's a strain on you, and it's not fair, because now financially you don't have all the means because it's only one person. It's like an extra bill that you're picking up. Father and son dynamic is just a little different, where you're just looking for that validation from your father as a male. So my boys to not have that kind of made me feel like really bad.
This has a ripple effect on not only just them, but the entire community, contributing to high rates of poverty and crime. The issue of African American male incarceration is a critical one that must be addressed in order to address the systematic issues of racial injustice and equality in our own society today.
I think it more or less stems from how America itself was established. So I can't say that the government can't help, the government is not set up to help.
Wisconsin in particular has the highest African American in prison rate in the nation. But it is not just Black and Latino individuals who are also affected by mass incarceration. Native Americans, Asian Americans, and other minority groups also experience higher rates of incarceration compared to white individuals. The reasons for these disparities are complex and rooted to systematic issues such as laws and policies that disproportionately impact minority communities, as well as inadequate funding for education, healthcare, and other resources that can prevent individuals from turning to crime. It's clear that if something needs to be done to address this inequity in our criminal justice system. Lawmakers and citizens together must work to reform the laws and policies that contribute to mass incarceration and provide support and resources to communities most impacted by this issue. Only then can we together as a community address the deep-seated issues of racial injustice and inequality in our society.
It's not that they're not being supported, it's just that it's so much on people out here. Like, you want them to have that support system. Like, hey, if you can write a letter, that's a lot of support, but at the end of the day, you can't eat that letter, you know? Even so, because when your family member is incarcerated, you kind of locked down too, because now you have to deal with that mentally every day.
I hope this video has provided a deeper understanding of the issue of mass incarceration, and also to inspire others to talk about this issue and be active in their community. Thank you for joining me on this journey.